So last night didn't go quite as well as planned. There were some good things and there were some really bad things. So the good thing is I was warm, toasty warm all night. The ice fishing shelter keeps the warmth. Unfortunately, that's all it does. Now I set up windbreaks, I set up tarps and stuff, and yet water still managed to get on in. And I'm not even on the ground. I was up about 5 inches off the ground with a couple pallets I liberated. So I also have a small raised bed in there. I wake up in the morning and, decide I'm going to go ahead and cook breakfast. Put my feet on the ground and I hear splash, splash. There's an inch of water. I had put a tarp on the ground, and in the pallets I stuffed with leaves and stuff just so no draft comes up. Despite everything I did and my best efforts, the wind and the snow got in, they hit the tent and it melted. And this ice fishing shelter, it keeps in the warm but doesn't keep out the wet. So I'm faced with a couple options: is tough it out like this, which is not a good idea because cold, wet equals dead. And I'm lucky I keep all my stuff in my bag, and my bag is waterproof. So I'm asking myself, what options do I have left? I have tarps. They're from the dollar store, and they're very small. And honestly, the dollar store tarps still manage to leak. And after last night, I don't think a tarp on its own is going to do anything. And right now, it's slightly snowing. It's not too cold. So I had to ask myself, what options do I have? And the only option I have is to build, to get some supplies and figure a build out. Now that ice fishing shelter, it's great for warmth. It's not good for anything else. A tent on its own is horrible, just horrible for warmth. So I did the only option I can. I went to Canadian Tire and I bought myself the biggest waterproof tarp I could find. It's 30 by 30 feet. It's huge. And I picked up a tent and I spent everything I had to make sure I can keep warm. And yeah, once I get back to the spot, I'm going to break down the ice fishing shelter because it all snaps together, which is probably the problem. And I'm going to do a build with it. I'll use the roof, because it's a flat roof, as the base. I'll put that underneath my tent, which will be up on a few pallets. The walls of that will go around the tent for insulation. And in there, I'm going to collect some dry grass and put it there and put a tarp all over that. The tent I picked up doesn't have a flute pipe. It doesn't have a spot for a flute for an indoor fireplace, but that can be easily modified. It's not a bad thing to use a camping stove inside of a tent. It's a bad thing to use a camping stove inside of a tent without ventilation. You will die. Or worse, burn the thing down and die. But that's easily modified. You just cut a circular hole in the top and you can get some flute meshing from the dollar store, which I have. So as I speak, I'm going to head back to camp, start the build, and I'll show you guys how it all ends up. But this will work. I've planned this out. I'm just relying on what I have, not what I can build, but I'm good at building, so now I'm gonna build. But all in all, I was really warm last night, and it dipped down to like -6. I didn't need any blankets. The inside of that thing stays nice and toasty warm, so I'm gonna combine the best of both worlds and see what I come up with. So it's quite literally been a full day's work getting this shelter set up. I bought a tent because the one I had wasn't going to do jack shit for me. It had a hole in it, and I needed something to, weatherproof. And no matter what tarp I used, my ice fishing shelter, it was leaking. It's good for ice shelter, for like ice fishing on the snow, but to stay in, it wouldn't work on its own. So I did what I said I was going to do, and I built. I went and got myself a fairly big tent. It's a 3-person tent. I had a 1-person one inside there that my feet broke through, so that won't happen here. But from my ice fishing shelter, I used the fabric from it. I still have all the pieces. I didn't break it, but I used the fabric of it to surround outside of the tent. So it keeps warm because the ice fishing shelter itself, inside stays warm. It's just, it does its job, just doesn't do the job I need it to do. So got this, and I got a gigantic 30 by 30 tarp. And yeah, I surrounded the outside with pieces of the ice fishing shelter so it keeps it warm in. And then I'm inside the tent. Underneath the tent is the roof of the ice fishing shelter, so I'm way up off the ground. Underneath that is some, what you'd call those, skids. So I'm very, very off the ground. And between the tarp layer and the ice fishing shelter layer, I stuffed some dried grass around it, so it really keeps the heat in. And I'm actually fairly warm in here. It's like -4 out right now, and it's nice and cozy in here. I'm just in one shirt, so that's fantastic. And I think this is going to work out a lot better, because that thing, holy crap, I could have drowned in there. That's how much water it was, like that thick. But I'll give you the grand tour. I've got, yeah, it's a tent. See, this is the grand tour. It's a tent. I've got my supplies there. It got muddy when I was bringing it out because it's been wet. Supplies there. That's dollar store. Got some food and water, clothing, and I made a small little bed out of this damn thing. And yeah, it doesn't look like much, but it's warm. I'll be a lot warmer here, and dry is the most important part. So thank you for watching. I'm good, I'm safe. You guys are awesome. If you would, please subscribe.